So let's sit up nice and tall, and we'll close the eyes. And just allow yourself to arrive in this moment, at this time, in this space. Be aware that you are arriving physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, intentionally, and with absolute awareness. Bring your awareness to the base of your body, the root of your body, what we call the Muladhara Chakra, located or centralized near the tailbone at the base of the groin, responsible for our sense of groundedness, our sense of safety and security. It influences greatly our experience of fear and anxiety. And say silently to yourself, I am present, I am grounded, I am stable. The color there is red or yellow. So you could visualize or remember the color red or yellow. And as you continue being aware, raise the awareness to the lower abdomen, generally between the belly button and the pelvis. And there is the second chakra, the Swadisthana Chakra, the chakra that is responsible for influencing your sense of creativity, self-acceptance, sexuality, vulnerability, and your comfort or discomfort with that. And as you're aware of this space within yourself, you can repeat silently, I am creative, I am expressive. It is my nature to express creatively. I am embracing that. And the color there is orange, and so you can remember or recall the color orange. And with each breath, just connect with your inner creativity. Just your existence alone, a creative miracle, a beautiful patterning, a work in process. And then raise the awareness up a little higher to the space between the belly button and the lower rib cage, and this is Manipura Chakra. This is the space, the energetic vortex responsible for influencing your sense of self-empowerment, your discipline, your discernment, your ability to be straightforward, your ability to set goals and to go to them, to work for them, your ability to be without doubt, to have faith. This area is also responsible for influencing how deeply you feel doubt, how easily you are shaken, how timid you become in the face of conflict. And the color here is yellow, so remember the color yellow or visualize the color yellow and say silently to yourself, I am empowered in my being. That is my natural state, to be empowered to live this life, to have this experience. I embrace that fully. And now lift the awareness up a little higher to the heart space, the upper rib cage, front, sides, and back of the body, what we call the Anahata Chakra, that which is unstruck. the home of the primordial vibration, the space which resonates from in outwardly, and from in even more inwardly. And the color here is green or pink. So remember or visualize that or those colors. And repeat silently to yourself, I am love, I am compassion, I am connection, I am peace. I accept and offer love easily. This is the space responsible for influencing anything that has to do with love. And when this space is closed off, it is also the space responsible for influencing hate, dislike, and discontent. And then elevating the awareness higher to the throat space, the Vishuddha Chakra. The color here is either a light blue or an indigo blue, either light or dark blue. And this is the space responsible for influencing our expression and acceptance of the truth. It is the seat of sound vibration. It is where we emanate sound vibration in our speech. May we always speak the truth. The color here, visualizing in your mind light blue or dark blue as you are reciting silently to yourself, I choose to express the higher truth in every word, thought, and action, in every intention. I choose to express the higher truth, the most healing truth, and the ultimate truth. And now uplift your awareness to the third eye center between the eyebrows, the Agnya Chakra. The color here is purple, either lavender or dark purple, whichever one feels right for you. Recall, remember, or envision that color. Know that the Agnya Chakra is responsible for influencing wisdom, this deep sense of knowing, the kind of knowing that there is no doubt. There is no doubt. It sits in the heart so correctly. It obliterates the mind, the ego, and it is connected to Source. And here you can repeat silently to yourself, I choose the ultimate truth, the absolute truth, the wisdom of Source. I choose to live that, to express that, and to be that. And uplifting your awareness yet again to the crown of the head, the home of Muladhara Chakra, the 1,000-petaled lotus flower that within our spiritual awakening blossoms into oneness, into the ultimate unity. The color here is clear or white. There is no sound. It's simply the silence of spaciousness. And maybe within that spaciousness you can hear a reverberation. We are one. We are only one. And we are everyone. We are one. We are only one. We are everyone. We are one. We are only one. We are everyone. And drawing the hands together in front of the heart, and with a sense of sweet humility, great compassion, and deep curiosity and awareness, we'll lift our voices in one beautiful Om. Take a nice breath in. bowing the head to the heart, acknowledging all that is. And lift the face to center, release the hands, flutter the eyes open. Rich, we have a chair right over here for you. Come join the circle. So the chakras. So important in our spiritual journey to have some understanding of them. Sometimes people look at them like sacred symbols on a t-shirt. They're like, that looks cool. What's that all about? They're spiritualized, energetic vortexes that elevate you into a space of awakening. Like, that's nice. They are that. They are that. They are, absolutely. But what are they, like, really, in this life, practically, to your alive and awakened experience of being here in this body, with this mind, with this mishmash of life experiences? What are they? They are gateways to understanding, the expression and experience of suffering and healing. We have all kinds of slogans and mottos in life. Like Nike. Isn't Nike just do it? Isn't that Nike's logo? Just do it. What do you need to just do it? Like, what state of mind do you have to be in? What physical state do you have to be in? When I started at Albright, they did the freshman orientation, and all of the RAs and many of the faculty had on a t-shirt. And on the back of the t-shirt, it said, so beautifully, don't worry, we'll get along just fine. Now, that's a great intention. My question is, what do you need? What do you have to be skillful at in order to get along just fine? Where do you have to be in your body and mind? Look at any inspiring slogan or motto or saying and ask yourself, don't say to yourself only, that's a great saying. Let's just do it. Follow that up with a question. What do you need in order to do it? What do you need to embody, to understand? And this is what the chakras are. The chakras are the pathway to let's do it, just do it. To don't worry, we'll get along just fine. And to any other saying that inspires us. The chakras are the pathway. And they begin with the root. The root, Muladhara Chakra. And if that's too esoteric or out there or woo-woo, then you can just understand that everybody's afraid of something. And everybody's afraid of many things. And the things that we are afraid of motivate us in ways that are harmful to us and harmful to other people. What we are afraid of causes us to become unnecessarily self-defensive and violent. And that violence can be completely aggressive or passive-aggressive. Both are harmful. And as long as we are in the process of committing harm, then we are in the process of fear. We are afraid. So we talk in yoga about balancing the root chakra. I'm going to go get my red t-shirt, my red sweater, my red blanket, my red shoes, my red socks, my red underwear. It's true, right? And then we're going to get our garnet or our ruby or wear a symbol that we don't really know what it means. We're going to chant the seed sound LUM 27 times. We don't know what that really means either, necessarily. And the one thing we're not going to do is pray for the best. Because we're going to feel somewhere in our mental state that by acquiring all those external things, that those things are going to awaken this thing. Not happening. Those things may be supportive, but don't allow ourselves to be fooled into thinking that they have some kind of power that you don't have, because they don't. They only serve as reminders to awaken the skill within yourself to override whatever fear you're feeling so that you can come into a more compassionate, peaceful state of being. And then if you want to wear the garnet necklace, wear it. It's great. If you want to wear the red t-shirt, wear it. It's wonderful. But only as a reminder of the work you have to do, not as a replacement for that work. So the Muladhara Chakra, this really basic kind of primal energy, and it's very primal energy. This is why people love drumming so much and dancing so much, because those are primal energies, primal vibrations that bring us to the earth, that bring us down to the earth, rather than floating somewhere out in the unknown, which is not comfortable for a lot of people. So the root chakra is the earthen chakra. It's the place to become stabilized, grounded, and strengthened. And there is something in that realm of the body, which is like the pelvic bowl and down to the feet and beyond. It goes up a little bit too, interacts with the other chakras. But there's something there called a granthi. And the word granthi means knot. So how many of you have had a necklace or something get a knot in it? You know, like you put something in the wash and it ends up being knotted around the spindle in the middle. That's so aggravating, right? So is this knot. It's so aggravating. It aggravates everything in life. This granthi, when it gets pulled tight, it aggravates everything. It aggravates your peace, your focus, your stability. It aggravates your strength. It aggravates you. It aggravates your vibrational quality. And it disturbs. It disturbs greatly. So when we come into the work of spirituality, we come into the place of loosening that knot so that it irritates us less and teaches us more. Because when we're in a state of deep irritation, it's not easy to learn there. It's easy to resent, it's easy to regret, it's easy to be angry, but it's not easy to learn when we're all tied up in knots. We got to loosen those knots a little bit so that we can circulate better. Physical circulation, blood and lymph, other fluids of the body, immune fluids of the body circulate better. That means that our body in that moment is just a little bit healthier. When the body is a little bit healthier because we've opened up circulation physically, then we can also open up circulation mentally and emotionally. And the mental and emotional work can be done more profoundly. And the greater the habit of doing that, the more profound our spiritual work becomes. And our spiritual work is not the local festival. That's a great community experience. But our spiritual work is here, and here, and here, and all of it. It's how you walk through life. It's how you interact with others. I get on a soapbox sometimes about the westernization of yoga because it's just such a shame. It's so consumerized, it really is. And I remember that when I first decided that our classes were going to be by donation, people actually asked me why I was doing that. Was I intending to hurt the community? Was I intending to take students away from other studios and places? Yeah. And I looked at them and I said, are you serious? Do you think that your students that are 45 miles from here are going to leave your yoga studio that you're charging $25 or $30 per class just to come here for a 1-hour class? The number of students that are willing to do that is almost zero. Almost. It's not an imposition to anybody. But what it is true to my heart about making this practice accessible to people so that nobody feels left out because they can't afford it. And no one should have a problem with that. Because otherwise, we're just a bunch of elitist jackasses who are not living what we're talking about. And yoga becomes an elitist experience that's only available to those who can afford it. This is all root chakra. It's like if you have to charge for your classes, then charge for your classes. But have a scholarship available for people so that you're doing service, because service is the number one work of the root chakra. It's also the number one root of the heart, and it's the number one for the third eye, for the wisdom. Have some service in your life. Don't only be concerned with money. Also be concerned with the alleviation of suffering and the role you play in that, for yourself and for others. I don't condemn anybody who charges for yoga classes. We used to charge for them too. But we always had the option of people coming in who couldn't afford it. Always. So where in your life do you make something available for others who can't afford it? Now, you may not be a yoga teacher or have a yoga studio or an ashram, but maybe you have a business. Maybe you have a food store. Do you have a little thing set to the side so that your local WIC recipients can come in and receive a little something to support them? Maybe you have a farm market. Do you have some vegetables put off to the side for the people who can't afford to buy them? Do you donate to the local food shelter? Or to the, what Burke's Food, what is that called? The Burke's Food Pantry, that big, they're huge. They have a huge warehouse. And it's amazing when we go there. I just see people coming in by the droves to both offer and receive. So where can you offer a little bit? A little bit of offering goes a long way to loosening the knot that is around the Muladhara Chakra. It reassures us that there's goodness in the world. And fear takes us into doubt of that goodness. So whatever we can do in our own life to reassure ourselves that goodness actually exists, we should do it. We shouldn't wait for other people to do it. Waiting for other people to do it is like putting your destiny in someone else's hands. And that's not good. It's not healthy. Your destiny is yours and yours alone, and it's up to you to remind yourself. And it's up to you to live that. The other things that we can do with regard to addressing the balance of the root chakra, it's all work, is that we can look at our fear directly. We can say to ourselves, well, every time I'm passive-aggressive, there's a reason for it. Am I looking at the reason? Am I addressing the reason? The step one is to recognize that we all act in passive-aggressive ways. And therefore, don't condemn anyone for it. Just recognize it's a symptom of suffering. Step two, why am I passive-aggressive? Well, I was taught that by my parents or by my siblings or by this person or that person. Okay, great. But don't blame them, because now you're grown up. And grown-ups have lots of power to make their own choices. So, understand where the root is for it, and understand that now it's time to feed the root with a different fertilizer. And every time, step 3, that you feel passive-aggressiveness or aggressiveness coming forward, change your pattern. Do not be passive-aggressive any longer. You know that energy when it's rising up. It's like, well, I'm getting shaky. So I got to say something to reestablish my control over this situation. And instead of saying something passive-aggressive, come into saying something uplifting to yourself and to all others. That's not saying that we are in some way, shape, or form accepting poor behavior as being okay. You can say very straightforward direction and do it in an uplifting manner. You can make adjustments, adaptations, and accommodations and corrections in a way that is uplifting for all, rather than in a way that knocks people down to the ground. And when you come into that practice of a greater level of kindness through awareness and mindfulness, you're reminding yourself of the goodness that exists. And you're allowing yourself to come into that goodness more and more, which reduces fear more and more. because you've faced what it is that you're afraid of on some level. We talked in class this morning about resolution. I love the word resolve. Resolve, resolution, to resolve the problem over and over and over and over again, because it's not just one time. We come into yoga, and I've said it myself. We all said it. Oh, I addressed that. Yeah. On what level? Because you are a complicated onion, and you have many levels. And we may have addressed it on one level of that onion, but there's millions more levels waiting. And they are all kinds of flavorful. They are all kinds of spicy. And they are all kinds of irritating. So we've begun to address it. But for as long as we're alive, we will probably not be finished with it. Because the moment that we think we are, in an unexpected change of events, it will come back to the surface again, disguised as something else. So we get the chance to resolve over and over again, whatever it is that is our irritation, and whatever it is that's bringing the root out of balance. So these three very important steps, and there are others too. There is mantra. Mantra reorients the mind to something greater than the common story that we tell ourselves. It's so funny. People come in sometimes to meditation, and I don't know, maybe when I started I did this too, I don't remember. They come into meditation, they're sitting there for like a minute, 30 seconds, maybe 10 seconds. They're like, this is boring. This is boring. I just feel like I'm just doing the same thing, just sitting here, not doing nothing. And I'm like, And yet you're not bored with the story that you've told yourself 10,000 times. You're bored with the silence, which is so unknown and curious and expansive and mysterious and beautiful. And you're not bored with the freaking story. How is that possible? You know? I'm bored with his or her story. They've told it to me twice. No compassion. Yet your story, which you've told 100,000 times, is still captivating and so full of excitement that you're going to tell it again in 5 minutes. It's so crazy, this being human, am I right? It's just so crazy. Stop telling your story. Start chanting mantra. Every time you want to tell the story, go to Ganesh or Christ or Buddha or Allah or whoever it is that you want to go to. But because damn, that story's boring by now. But you know what we do so that it's not so boring? Our ego has a little trick. It changes the details. It elaborates. It makes it big, much bigger than it actually was. The spider goes from being like smaller than half your pinky finger to being like this freaking big. The details escalate every time we tell it. And that keeps us going. It's like, well, what part can I elaborate this time? Man, I catch myself doing that all the time. And I'm like, Sudha, stop it. It's not what happened. It's not what happened. Oh my God. What's up with you? Why is that fear coming forward? You know? It was like one word, one phrase, one moment, and it's done. Why are you still living there? Because you're trying to pick it apart. And in picking it apart, you're making 10,000 assumptions, and not one of them are true. All root chakra. Change the story, change the experience, change the fear. Address the need for stabilization and grounding. And then something beautiful will happen. The energy of that root chakra will start to lift up as it's grounding you down. And when it lifts up, when that energy lifts up, it touches the next chakra. And then a whole nother world of issues comes to light. Because we're like, I've got all my red on. I'm feeling grounded. This is great. What do you mean you don't like me? I'm dressed in red. You have to like me. It depends on what you mean by that. No. Little different. Right now, we're just in the psychology of our own BS. Kundalini's beyond that. Yeah. Some people would say she's kind of like, in the morning when it's time to wake up and you're kind of like, I don't want to wake up. It's a chilly morning. I'm just going to pull the blankets over my head. That's about where she's at. She's like, you're still going through stuff. I'm just going to hide myself, stretch a little, go back to sleep until you're ready. Kundalini is like a shot.
I was just thinking the last time we did this.
Yeah.
You talked about Kundalini, you were saying we have to do the work.
Yeah. The work sets the foundation. That's the work. Yes, that's absolutely the work. Because aligning the chakras is not the same thing as Kundalini rising. Just like building the racetrack is not the same thing as the car racing on it. Yeah. So you have to build the road. That's what we're doing by doing the work. And then Kundalini can rise, if she chooses to.
So I have a question.
Yeah?
People that go to certain yoga classes and take Kundalini classes,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
they are not, I don't know the right word, I don't want to say spirit educated into doing the work.
Do we know that?
Call it chakra or just doing the work to better yourself. Could that be a dangerous, just to take a Kundalini, that you're arising all of this energy and...
Yeah, the first thing that I want to say in answering that, I think it's a great question. The first thing I want to say is that it's not ever our place to make the assumption that someone is or isn't doing their work. Because it may look like they're not doing it, but they may be in a much better place than they were yesterday. We just don't know. We're all in process on some level, some way, shape, or form. But yes, absolutely, it can be extremely dangerous. And this is why Yogi Bhajan, the founder of Kundalini Yoga in its modern form, said the practitioner has to prepare themselves, their nervous system and their entire self. Otherwise, when Kundalini rises, it's going to blow through the top of the head. The head will blow up. Now, that was a little dramatic statement. But what he meant was that the nervous system will become fried. Because you can't take a person from an absolute state of suffering and throw them into healing. It doesn't work that way. It's progressive. So there has to be education. And within the Kundalini tradition, as I understand it, this is the modern tradition I'm talking about, not the concept of Kundalini itself, that those practices that they do with those high repetitions, that is their work. That is their training. That is their education. That as a result of doing that 54 times or 108 times, that they're breaking through barriers of disbelief, lack of faith, doubt, self-hatred, hatred of others. That it softens them, like when you what do they call that when you're making steak and you hammer it? Tenderizing. It's like tenderizing, right? Those practices are tenderizing you. And it's the same thing in the yoga, asana, pranayama, and concentration practice. Those practices are not necessarily there for your enjoyment. I mean, they are. They could be. They're there to tenderize you and prepare you. Yeah. So, but it can be dangerous, and it can be dangerous for a hatha yoga practitioner too. If a person has trauma in their body that is not addressed, and their breathing practices are reflective of that trauma, and they force a different breathing practice then that breathing practice actually harms them. It doesn't help them. So these are important things to know. A person comes into a yoga class and they have issues with the connective tissues in their hips that are a medical diagnosis of some sort, something really, significant. Like, let's just say that they had a posterior hip replacement and they're going into these postures and they're forcing these postures and they don't know that those postures are going to dislocate their hip or hurt them. So there's treachery everywhere. There's dangerous, slippery slopes everywhere. The slippery slopes should not stop us from inquiring, but we should be aware of them and then behave accordingly. And the work that we do in the base of the root chakra with regard to our lifestyle is that preparation. It is that preparation. So the energy elevates upward and it touches Swadisthana. And we don't worry so much as we work within the Swadhisthana chakra about whether other people understand us or like us or not. We just kind of come to a place where we understand ourselves a little better. And we recognize that if someone doesn't understand themselves, how do you expect them to understand you? It's really not possible. They can relate to your suffering. They can maybe relate to your healing, but they're not going to understand you. My husband used to get a little irritated. In yoga teacher training, we would always have this conversation about assuming things about people. And I would always say, my husband and I, we've been married for a long time, however many years it was at that point. We were together a lot of the time. We were what I considered to be a rare couple that we could be together all day. And we wouldn't argue. We were just walking side by side and enjoying it and loving it. And it didn't matter if it was at the 10-year mark or the 20-year mark or the 24-year mark. It was all the same. So even though we spent a lot of time together, we worked together, we lived together, we loved together, I still didn't know him, and he did not know me. I knew certain things about him. There were certain things I understood to a certain degree. There was an intimacy about being open to getting to know each other. But I didn't know his every thought. It would be ridiculous to think I did. I didn't know his every motivation. That would be silly of me to assume. There were still, after 24 years, I would still sometimes say to him or he would say to me, "What's your favorite color today?" Because I would not make the assumption that I know what his favorite color is. His favorite color changes like the days change. His favorite color was yellow. This was his favorite color for like the first 10 years of our relationship. Yellow. It's yellow of the sun yellow, And so I would get him like a yellow t-shirt with a bright sun on it, celebrating his favorite color. And then one day he says to me, I got him something, I don't remember what it was. He said, "Can I ask a question?" I said, "Sure." He goes, "Why do you keep buying me yellow things?" I said, "Because that's your favorite color." He goes, "No, it's not." I was like, pouting. I said, "Well, what is your favorite color?" He goes, "I don't know him right now." He said, "I'm sure there was a time when it was yellow. Don't buy me any more yellow t-shirts." I said, "Okay, fine." So we don't really ever know another person. But you know what we do have? We have the constant opportunity to be joyful in getting to know them over and over again. Every day, every breath, every experience. We have the opportunity to watch with wonder and excitement and sometimes a little concern as we get to know them and how they see themselves. How do they see themselves? Because that's different every day too. Because their root chakra is just as misaligned as yours. And so is Swadhisthana and Montipora. Montipora is the space between the belly button and the navel, which also moves out from there and touches onto all the other chakras and beyond. And that's the place of empowerment. It's being able to have the self-discipline and the self-confidence to a way, but not in a cocky way, and the stability in oneself to be able to acknowledge, hey, I don't really know you. I don't, but I want to understand as best I can. I can identify your suffering and your healing, but your changes. To be comfortable with those changes and to not let them ruin your inherent love and compassion requires health and wellness in the Manipura chakra. Because otherwise, every time that other person changes, you will suffer greatly because you will take it personally. And it's really not about you at all. It's just not. When Ed had a bad day, it wasn't about me. When I had a bad day, it wasn't about him. When he was grumpy to me, it wasn't about me. When I was grumpy to him, and yes, I was, it wasn't about him. He was very wise. He knew that. And the thing that would end up happening, because we would have these kind of conversations, is that he would get grouchy, I would get grouchy, and we would laugh at each other and with each other because we were grouchy. And we thought, arguing is typically kind of useless because voices escalate, nothing gets resolved. So we would end up laughing at our own ridiculousness, And it worked for us. It worked for us. The ability to laugh, even when you feel completely uncomfortable, is all this area right here. That's Manipura. That's the work to be done in that space of the body. The way you express yourself to the world. Have yoga teachers all the time come up to me, particularly ones who graduate our program, but others also, and they'll say, I'm not comfortable with the languaging. I'm like, what languaging? They say, well, like the fluffy languaging. I said, what fluffy languaging? They talk about love. Like, huh? Okay. What are you not comfortable with about it? Like, express that a little bit. I'm like, well, I just think it's a lot of fluff. Like you're talking about love all the time. And I don't know. I'm just not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with telling people how to feel. I'm not comfortable with telling people they got to feel the love. I said, well, if you don't tell them in your class that that's an option, then what are you telling them? I'm telling them to feel whatever they want to feel. I said, okay. If you're not making the suggestion that love is an option, then you're taking love out of the equation. Because what are you going to talk about then? You're going to talk about something other than love. And I've been in yoga classes where they actually talk about embracing the negative feelings. There's one yoga teacher that I knew, and I appreciated her very much, and I wouldn't call her a friend, but she was an acquaintance, and she was a fine, kind person. But man, the number of times that she dropped the F-bomb in class was abusive. Abusive.
No, I never.
Not you. The person is not in this room. The person is not even in this state. Man, the number of F-bombs. And it's like, why? So in this conversation, what I said to this person was this. I said, if you're not comfortable to talk about love and compassion, then don't do it. But don't talk about hate either. And don't talk about bolstering the ego. Don't drop the F-bomb. Because that in and of itself is a whole emotion. And think about this. If what you're saying in conversations with people is that you want to walk the path of love and light, how are you walking that path if you're not confident enough to talk about it? If you're not confident enough to share with the people in your circle that love is an option, what path are you walking? Hate is a really loud, screaming voice. It is a loud voice. It is a pushy, violent, aggressive voice. And it comes in every chance it gets. And if you're just sitting there saying, just feel what you want to feel. I'm your yoga teacher, and I'm not going to tell you. Then what you're saying is, love is weak. Compassion is weak. I don't have enough faith in it to speak it out loud. And that's the message that's subconsciously being sent. You feel angry? Great, feel angry. You feel bitter? Great, feel bitter. You feel love? Great, feel the love. Don't exclude the love or the compassion because you're afraid of it. That's all right here in Manipura. That's all right here. It's so much easier to be hateful. It's so much easier to be negative. It's so much easier to just shut out the goodness and even deny it on some level. But if you really want to walk the walk of unity and walk the walk of compassion, then you've got to talk pretty loud, because violence and hate are really loud, and you're not going to conquer them with a whisper. So she went off to her class, and a couple months later came back and was like, wow, my teaching has really changed. I talk a lot about love and compassion now, because now I recognize the importance of it. And that's really key, recognizing the importance of it. If you don't like the world the way it is, then in some level it's up to you to change it. And if you shy away from the cure, you'll never realize it. So be the love. Be that, like Gandhi said, that you want to see in the world. Yeah?
It just a thought, because I know I was teaching a class one time, and how do you say, for me, like I was saying, I remember I went into class in the car, and he said, how are you? And I said, I was about to put on a mask and say, oh, I'm good. And you know what, I was just in a foul mood, just because traffic, and I was in that entitlement of, I should be the only one allowed on the road right now. Because I'm the only one that has to get somewhere. And I was about to say, and then I said, I'm actually in a really foul mood. And that kind of lended to my teaching and saying that, I don't know, like the self-compassion and love was, love yourself even when you're in a foul mood. Just say it, and then kind of like when you're saying in the grouchy mood, it allowed me to just laugh about it, rather than stay stuck and put on that mask and love myself even with these feelings. So I don't know, like, would that be labeled a negative feeling then, or anti-love?
No, not in any way, shape, or form. So, to practice love is not to take these other emotions and stick them in a corner like a bad child and face the corner and don't talk to me. No. Love is like a blanket. It's like the warmest, most comfortable blanket, and it surrounds these other emotions and invites them to take part in health and wellness. Anger can be healthy. Grief can be very healthy. Self-doubt can be very healthy when it's healthy. Otherwise, it's not. And so to acknowledge, you know what, I'm in a little bit of a pissy mood today. Great. Self-awareness, nothing like it. Acknowledge it, because only when you name the 300-pound gorilla in the room can you deal with it. Right? When we walk around denying, saying, nope, I'm fine, everything is fine, I'm fine, everything is fine, then we're not addressing anything. But when we look and we say, look, we all feel irritated from time to time, we all feel depressed, we all feel angry, we all feel these things. What's the resolution? How do we maneuver that into a healthier place so that we don't get stuck there? Yeah, absolutely. I had one of my teachers in Anyasara, Naeem. He came into class one day. Oh, he was terribly angry. I remember this. It was during some election period. It wasn't the last one. It was during some previous local election, I think it was. And there was traffic on the way, and he was late, and they were playing this thing on the radio that was, kind of getting his political goat. And he came in, and he was just like, all right, warning, I'm in a mood, And he took it and he played with it. He played with it. He created a dance with it, He didn't shun it or deny it. He worked with it. And by the end of class, it was basically resolved to whatever extent we saw. He was the only one who really knew how far it was resolved. But I really always appreciated his candor and his ability to dance with those things that are quite uncomfortable for us as humans. Yeah. So then once the Manipura comes to a place of healthy expression and confidence, healthy confidence, not cocky confidence, then that energy also rises up. And the next place it comes to is the heart. And the heart is the Anahata Chakra. The heart is the place that influences your compassion, your love, your acceptance. And there's another major knot here called the Vishnu Granthi. So the knot at the groin area and a knot at the heart area. And when this knot is tight, it's really hard to give and receive love healthfully. It's very challenging, if possible at all. We want to love. We want to, because that's the longing of the heart. That's the spiritual desire, is to love and to be loved. More to love than to be loved. But what stops us from doing that, again, is fear. Well, no, I was conditioned as a child that my love wasn't worthy. Yeah, and that created fear. Created fear of lack, fear of not being good enough, fear of not receiving what you need. It's fear. It comes down to fear. It comes down to the attachment, bless you, of fear. And so to work with the Granthi of the heart is to take oneself out on a limb and love anyway. Find a way to love. You don't have to go up and throw your arms around people and pretend to be their best friend. That would be BS, right? That would be not authentic. But you can find a way to look at a person, recognize that you're angry with them or that you have hostile feelings toward them, and then accepting those feelings as part of your human experience, also recognize that you have spiritual love for them. That you have an understanding that they're suffering, just like you are. That you have an understanding that they also don't know how to get out of their suffering, just like you don't. Or that they're working at it, just like you are. And recognizing that if you commit violence toward that person of a hateful kind, that you're just going to contribute to their suffering, to your suffering, and to the suffering of the world. The heart is what enables us to be courageous in our love and in our compassion. It's really easy to judge people and call people on welfare lazy and call the homeless people all mentally ill. All homeless people are not mentally ill, and all people who are on welfare are not lazy. Just like all people who work for the government aren't lazy. Just like all people who have a cushy office corporate job aren't lazy. They don't just sit in their office all day drinking back lattes and talking, whatever they talk. But we look at people and we say, we judge them. We identify them in a certain way, and it's harmful all the way around. All the way around. All politicians and lawyers are not crooked. All activists are not radical. And all radical people are not bombers and, breaking into laboratories, freeing animals from cages. Right? There's differences across the board. Meet people where they are. Because we too are lazy in some moments, in many moments. We too are radical in many moments. We too are full of ourselves in many moments, just like they are. So why are we condemning them? The secret is we're condemning ourselves, but we're using them as a prop to do so that it's hidden. It's hidden away rather than faced, rather than faced. And that takes us back down to the root. It's hard to get past the heart because it takes us right back down to the root. Are you facing yourself? Well, once we get kind of skillful at facing ourselves and at opening up the heart to the light of love and the light of peace and the understanding of suffering and the understanding that there is violence in this world, there will always be violence in this world, don't wear rose-colored glasses, understand things are tough, and be good anyway. Then that lifts us up to the throat, to the Vishuddha Chakra. And the Vishuddha Chakra is the space where we create sound. We have a voice box. We have the honor to create sound in our words and in our song. And what words are you using? What song are you singing? Are your words violent? Sound is a vibration that travels. This is why the gong bath and the healing bowls and mantra is so healing to the physical body, because sound travels and it moves through you and anything in front of you, around you, behind you, before you. The words that I'm saying right now are touching each one of you and beyond. The words you say are touching me and everyone else around you and beyond. Isn't it imperative, if we're consciously walking a spiritual path, that what's coming out of here as a sound vibration is of a certain nature, of a certain quality, that at least includes the possibility of healing and love and unity, rather than hate and dissension and separation? That's why when you lay on the floor with your head to the gongs, it's like, whew, it's like a wave that moves through. And the wave of the gongs is a certain frequency, so it really tones the system. It like shakes you up and settles you down. But words that come out that are hateful and dissentful, those words shake us up in a different way. So when we have an affirmation, I express the higher truth, the inner truth, the truth of the truth. What we're saying is, I'm going to use this beautiful, beautiful ability that I've been given to speak and express in a way that supports people, not in a way that hurts them. And then when I do use my voice in a way that is not kind, then I'm going to recognize that honestly with myself. I'm going to recognize the trigger, I'm going to recognize the behavior, and I'm going to really work to change it. I'm not going to hate myself for it. I'm just going to work to constantly change it, to constantly bring it to a higher place. And once we get comfortable with that expression of what we can call goodness or unity, the Baha'i tradition, I just love their teachings. They say, humanity is separated, and the truth of humanity is unity. So once we get over our separation, then we'll come into the truth of who we really are. All these different names we call God, they're all separated. None of them are absolutely God. Only when we bring them all together and accept every single name as valid will we come to the unity and the truth in that unity of God. It's so beautiful. So knowing truth takes us up even higher to the third eye. And the third eye is Agnya Chakra. And that's where the third Granthi is, the third knot. The knot at there is called the Shiva Granthi or Rudra Granthi. And the knot there is what causes ignorance. It influences ignorance. It tells us that we're seeing clearly when we're not really. It confuses us between the sense of knowing something and really knowing. Knowing in a spiritual context is an inner settling of the truth. Knowing in an egoic way is looking out and saying, I've got your number. I know what you're all about. And making a harsh critical judgment. So when that knot is tight, we don't see with our spiritual eye. We only see with our ego. When that knot is loose, we become a witness. A witness of what? Process, path, intention, goodness. We become a witness. We become an honoring of what everybody, including ourselves, is going through. And when we become super skillful at that, when we surrender to that completely, maybe we become a saint. That puts us up into the Crown Chakra. And that's the bridge between the physical and the spiritual. That's the light of true unconditional love. And then you do walk through the world in a way that is very light and very empowering. Most of us will only have momentary experiences of alignment. Most of us will not have consistent experience of alignment. Saints may have consistent experience of alignment more than we do. But even saints are in a physical body and are susceptible to what we call the gunas of nature, the change, the vulnerability to irritation and distraction and disturbance. But with a regular practice, committed to over a long period of time, with little to no interruption and great enthusiasm, we can become skillful. And then the moments where things are aligned will last longer. And then when the Kundalini arises, then she rises in a way that is healthy for us, and is in a way that puts us right into that light, and we know it, and we're not afraid of it, and we don't ask other people to understand it. It's ridiculous to ask somebody who is broken, who thinks they are broken, to understand what it is to be whole. It's not possible. If you really believe you are broken, you can't understand wholeness. It's not possible. If you think you're broken, how do you understand the opposite of that? Other than doing the work and getting yourself there somehow. So when someone says, well, my chakras are all aligned and my Kundalini has risen, and I wish everybody knew what that felt like and understood, because it's irritating when they don't, but I'm awakened. No, maybe you were for a moment, but then your ego came forward and said, I want you all to see how special I am. That's not awakening, that's ego. That's ego. You got to call it what it is. And then recognize you had this beautiful gift for a few moments, which is a fleeting gift for everybody. Now just work to go there. Just commit yourself to your personal experience. Don't worry about what other people say. It doesn't matter. You're going to have yay-sayers and naysayers all across the board. Don't worry. Just be you. And bring the best of yourself forward continually. So I'll open it to thoughts, questions, and reflections. Any thoughts, questions, or reflections?
When he's about, like if they reach alignment, they're like, ooh, look at me. So it's just funny because I remember listening to this Buddhist monk. That's what he said. He said, when you get to enlightenment, the people that really get there aren't like, ooh, look at me, I'm so enlightened, or I'm a holy person. He's like, because if you have full awareness and knowing in that space, then you just stay there. There's no need to prove something. Like, you're just there.
Right. You're just there. And you recognize suffering. You don't deny it. These people who are out there who say, you can be a completely 100% peace all the time, love all the time, absolute perfect all the time, are probably just writing a book they want to sell. Because...
You lose 10 pounds while you're doing it.
Right, yeah, and lose 10 pounds while you're doing it. Yeah, no. You're not going to be peace all the time, but what you can be is present all the time. You can be present all the time. You can be present to what is, and you can be peaceful with what is. So that if you have anger moving through, Thich Nhat Hanh has a beautiful anger meditation. Watching anger arrive, watching it arise, knowing what it does to you physically, mentally, and emotionally, and choosing to witness instead of react. That's the gift. That's the gift. It's not that you're never going to cry again. It's not that you're never going to feel freaking irritated again. We will. We absolutely will. But it's what we do with that. It's that there's some level of skill in negotiating those waters that allows us to maintain some level of personal control rather than feeling like you're being whipped around in a storm and you got no grounding, no control, nothing. It allows you to be of service. It allows you in a situation to bring the best part of yourself forward in service of the alleviation of suffering of others rather than falling into woe is me. Why is this happening to me? Poor me. No. This is like the firefighters, and the EMS people, the emergency response people. And even heroes like in wartime. These are people who come out This is like at 9/11, the people who went in to help people get out. You know, there was a moment of awakening there because they recognized the necessity. Their behavior became heroic, and they didn't care for their own safety. They cared for unity, the unified safety of as many as possible. That's what we can look at our path and say it's preparing us for. It's preparing us for unity. And that takes us out of our ego and into our wisdom, into our heart, and into our foundation. Any other thoughts or questions? Yes.
I really appreciate the circle because sometimes I lose hope in the decisions we make in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I am in the presence of the circle that I feel is full of light and hope and peace, it makes me feel that perhaps there are other circles also taking place around the globe.
Yeah.
And then that gives me hope.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many circles. And those circles are growing a little bit at a time. They are. Don't doubt that. They are. There's lots of circles. We just got to get them all joined. Make a nice chain, nice necklace, you know? Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Linda. A chain around the world. It's like they did holding hands around the world, right? A few years back. Yeah. That's pretty amazing. We should do that again. So let's sit tall and close the eyes. And as you close the eyes and sit tall, please know how much I appreciate you, how much I appreciate your presence, how much I adore your company. And I'm inspired by your thoughts and reflections and sharings. I'm placing the right hand on the heart and the left hand over the right. Together we'll lift our voices in one Om. Take a nice breath in. And bowing the head to the heart, acknowledging all that is. And drawing the face to center. Namaste. Thank you all so much for being part of this talk today. Thank you to our retreat attendees for being here this weekend and for diving into this deep work for yourself, for your path, for your life. And be well, live well, laugh a lot, cry.
Speaking of your sound vibration is wonderful.
It's so true. It really is. Absolutely. Yeah. And so for those who haven't had lunch yet, they're still serving lunch. We have lots going on. There's calendars up front. If you didn't sign in, please do. If you're called to make a donation, please do. Please know that you're appreciated completely. We can't do this without you. And thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.